Good afternoon. Welcome to the booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. I'm very excited to talk to our next guest. He's a very familiar individual in the community. He's spent a lot of time giving of time and service to the area, and we're very lucky that he's agreed to be the current 150th State Legislative District Representative. 151? Yes. 151? I'm sorry. 151st State Legislative District Representative. And again, it's everybody knows Mr. Steve Jordan. Mr. Jordan, welcome to the booth.
Thank you very much. Proud to be here.
Hey, may I call you Steve?
You sure can.
Steve, tell the listeners a little bit about Steve Jordan for those who don't know, which is going to be very few out there.
Well, I have spent a lifetime in Stoddard County. Made my living in Stoddard County all except for 4.5 years up at Cape Tractor Trailer. Came back and went to work for Jim and Melba Duty in January of 1988. Spent 34.5 years there at Heavy Duty, and the Harold Williams family and I bought it out in 94 along with Terry Wood, and been very fortunate to make my living in Stoddard County, and it's been very good to me.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Steve Jordan, the representative for the 151st State Legislative District. Steve, tell us a little bit about what your area all covers.
Okay, I cover southwest Cape County, southern Bullinger County, and all of Stoddard County.
And tell me, in your opinion, is it a situation in which the area that you cover is diverse in the number of different problems that it has?
The rural area is lacking some attention from Jefferson City, for the lack of a better term. I think we have an opportunity with the crew that we have up there now to do more for this area than has ever been done. I just hope I can be a part of that and make that happen.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Steve Jordan, the representative for the 151st District. And Steve, you know, you went up to Jeff City. You've been up there for a year. You went through the first session. Obviously, it started in January, ended in May, except you've been up there numerous times, special session, veto session, things of that nature. Tell us a little bit about how you're doing. How's it going up there?
Well, I didn't get off on a real good foot when they called me the Saturday after the election and congratulated me on my victory, and they wanted to know what committees I wanted to be on, and I told them. And I'm pretty plain spoken. I think anybody that knows me understands that. And I told the Mr. Greasy, who was Mr. Patterson, the quote-unquote speaker-elect, that I couldn't vote for Mr. Patterson. And I kind of laid the groundwork for me not getting much done the first session, but the way he voted on things, I just couldn't support him. And I didn't know the other guy from anybody.
Right. And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, and we're speaking with Steve Jordan, the representative for the 151st Legislative District. And I've had the opportunity and privilege to know Mr. Jordan for it's been a year or so. I reached out. One thing that I know from talking to Steve is you ask him a question, he's going to give you the straightforward answer and how it's going to be. He's not going to pull any punches. So when you eventually went up to Jeff City, what committees did they wind up allowing you to be on?
Well, they put me on every committee that I asked for, which was a surprise. I got on transportation because of my experience with a trucking company. I got on conservation, and I also told them I was a little bit anti-government, and I got on the, pardon me, I'm drawing a blank here.
It sounds like it's an excellent committee if it's anti-government.
Yes. Government reduction is what they called it,
right?
But it is Lordy mercy.
And we'll go with government reduction. Again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590 with State Representative Steve Jordan from the 151st Legislative District. And you indicated that you have a background in transportation with heavy-duty trucks and the things of that nature. What are some of the things that the Transportation Committee is trying to get done for Southeast Missouri?
The biggest thing that we've been able to do is maybe streamline some of the licensing procedures, extended the time out on the number of license. A lot of controversy on both sides of that. Permanent plates on some vehicles, and you've got the tax problem that comes along with that if you issue those permanent plates, and people try to maybe skirt the system a little bit, not and pay their fair share.
And I guess I know one thing that's come up a lot is if I go and buy a car at, say, Autry Moreland or Bud Shell here in town, and I was getting temporary tags. The temporary tags, is my understanding, gives you 30 days to eventually go and pay your sales tax. And there was an issue because people will be driving on these temporary tags for years, it seems like. Is that something that the Transportation Committee was kind of taking over, or was that a different direction?
No, we did do that, and I think as of August, the law was passed and signed where the dealerships are going to collect the sales tax. Now, I don't know exactly what's going to happen when you sell a car individually now. I haven't got that far into that program, but we did set that up, and I'm sure they've got procedures in place.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Steve Jordan, representative for the 151st Legislative District that covers all of Stoddard County, some of Bollinger County, and some of Cape County, correct?
Yes, sir.
And we're talking a little bit about the sales tax and the issue with motor vehicles. I'm assuming whenever that was going in place, did a lot of the auto dealers say, hey, this is a good idea, this is not a good idea? Did they really have much way of voicing an opinion one way or the other?
I had no dealership approach me with pros or cons to that, and that was a surprise.
Huh. And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Steve Jordan. Steve, I haven't even asked if someone in the area had a question or wanted to reach out to you. How would we do that? Is there a phone number or is there an office number? Is that correct?
Yes, there's an office number, and my campaign cards when I was running had my cell phone on it, and I am not afraid to put my cell phone out there and answer any questions to anybody. Absolutely.
And if we wanted to venture up to Jefferson City, your office number and all that can be found as we go in. We just ask for Representative Steve Jordan's office.
Yes, sir.
And in fact, you've handed me a card that indicates if you want to get a hold of Steve Jordan, steve.jordan@house.mo.gov, 573-751-1494. I think, you're welcome to call Steve and ask him anything you want. He's a super open and honest guy. Steve, when you're not doing politics, what are you doing in your free time?
Well, I thought I would have a little more free time than what I've had, but I've been very busy going and speaking to groups and visiting people with concerns. But when I'm not doing that, we still raise and train barrel horses. We sell hay. I'm busy with the grandkids and the farm, and just I'm pretty steady.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Steve Jordan, the representative from the 151st District. Steve's talking a little about his free time, which he hadn't had much here this year. You went up in the summer for a special session. What exactly did y'all get accomplished in that special session?
Well, in my opinion, we accomplished something that shouldn't have been done. The SB 3 bill was passed, and they gave us about an hour and a half before the last day of sessions to read and understand that. And it was a $1.5 billion bill for the taxpayers to subsidize 2 new stadiums. And I don't know where they're at on that. I think they just wanted us to vote for it so they could negotiate. I couldn't do that. And
again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, and we're talking about Senate Bill 3. And Senate Bill 3, my understanding, was designed to basically keep the Chiefs and the Royals in Kansas City.
Yes, sir.
And no disrespect for anybody who lives in Kansas City, but I didn't even know Kansas City was still in Missouri. And I shouldn't say that, but when was the last time anyone from Southeast Missouri went to see a Royals baseball game? Is that even really a professional baseball team? I thought the Cardinals were the only team in Missouri.
Well, we did have an I-70 series one time.
I remember that. I remember that. And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Steve Jordan, representative from the 151st District. Steve serves on the Transportation, Conservation, and
Government Efficiency.
Now, I'm going to have to say that's an oxymoron when you say government efficiency, but I appreciate the naming of something called government efficiency. Tell us a little bit about your conservation committee. What's going on in conservation for the state of Missouri?
Conservation is kind of an animal of its own. We're supposed to have 3 branches of government in the state of Missouri. And I get in trouble when I speak this way, but I can't help it. We actually have 5. Missouri Department of Transportation stands on its own because of the tax money, and they kind of do what they want to do. Missouri Conservation is no different. Missouri Department of Conservation. We passed that 1/8 of 1% sales tax, and I'm not on their favorite list up there. I promise you that.
And with that 1/8 of 1% sales tax that was passed for conservation, what are they supposed to be doing with that money?
Well, we're supposed to be managing wildlife, and we're supposed to be propagating people to come into that part of the industry. Instead, they buy ground, lease ground, want control of way too much ground. As far as I'm concerned, they're in a runaway train.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Steve Jordan, the representative from the 151st District. Covers all of Stoddard County, parts of Bollinger County, and parts of Cape County. And let's talk a little bit about this conservation. Why would they want to be buying and leasing real estate?
All I can say, it's about power and having control over more property. And then when they do that, the counties where most of that ground is in get no tax off the ground. The only thing they do is get a little money for the roads to keep up around those pieces of property. You take the counties out west, Texas County, and all the counties that have got most of the Missouri conservation places in it, most of those counties are in dire straits as far as financially.
And I guess my question is, and I'm trying to wrap my brain around it, why would the individuals from Jeff City want to come in and manage property in Texas County, Nottoway County, Stoddard County, Butler County?
I can't read their minds.
And I'm not trying to, and I don't think you're trying to be coy.
No.
But it sounds like you've had numerous discussions with them, and basically you're just not getting any answers.
They wanted to apply for a $3 million grant, or $30 million. I can't remember. The numbers kind of
right
are mind-boggling sometimes, to do something with easements around private property. And they did. I wrote them a letter. 3 or 4 of us wrote a letter. We told them we were not for that. And then I found out they were wanting, the next year they were going to come back and want money to keep those easements up. Well, we don't need to be having easements around anybody's private property or on anybody's private property, in my opinion. Too much government intervention, too much government control, state or federal.
Absolutely. And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Steve Jordan, a representative from the 151st Legislative District. Steve's originally from Advance, is that correct?
Well, the suburb is Brownwood.
Brownwood. And I've been to Brownwood, and I understand Brownwood's an outstanding little community there. When you're not doing you indicated you raise barrel horses, racing horses, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I ran my first contest horse in 1969, and I was out of the horse business for about 3 months after Danielle and I got married. I had to sell the last one to finish my screened-in front porch on a new house we'd built. But I got back in and I've never been out. We had Gary Norris and I were partners. We had 30 brood mares at one time and 2 stallions, and we made something that was fun, a whole lot of work.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. And I can kind of tell that it sounds like it's work, but it doesn't look like when you talk about it, you think it's work. It's something that sounds like a real passion for you.
It has been a passion. My dad didn't want to do anything with a horse. He worked horses. He was a sharecropper until World War II broke out. And he left here 2 days after he turned 17 and didn't want another horse, didn't want to have to feed anything. We hunted and fished until I finally got a paper route and got my first horse bought, and it's been all downhill, I guess, from there.
Well, again, and we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Steve Jordan, the representative for the 151st District, gracious enough to give us some time today. Talking about the effective nature of government, which I think he and I are on the same page on that. We talked a little bit about the conservation committee that he's on. You're also on transportation, and we talked a little bit about that. And you indicated that the highway department is a kind of an animal of its own. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I know that I understand that I-70 is a very important corridor in the state of Missouri. But is it my understanding that we're spending multi-billion dollars to expand that corridor?
Yes, sir.
And that's going to benefit. What was the reason for that given to you when they asked you to vote on that?
Well, that was already done, basically.
Oh, okay.
When I came in. If you've traveled very much between St. Louis and Columbia, it's pretty busy and pretty dangerous, and it's going to be more dangerous while they're doing this construction. When they get it done, it's going to be a benefit to the central part and the east-west side of Missouri.
And, a lot of people, again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, and I'm asking you some questions, and this a lot of people say, well, if it benefits St. Louis, if it benefits Kansas City, and it benefits the rest of the state of Missouri, have you found that always to be the case?
It is hard for me to make a case for southeast Missouri for I-70. We had other highways on the radar,
right?
And those have not been taken care of, but they promise that they are going to improve these. And then there's some I-66 corridor programs that have been brought up. I'm not for an I-66 corridor. If we can build just the highway without the high-speed rail that they're talking about, and without the utility lines and water lines running down the middle of the 50-mile wide corridor. And that corridor scares a lot of people to death. They're thinking the government's going to take over 50 miles, which they're not. But I don't think we need to keep up with what we've got and take care of the old highways first. And then if we've got money to do that, then that'll be the next step.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. He's talking to Steve Jordan, representative from the 151st State Legislative District. Steve from, as he corrected me, Brownwood. Or as we like, the capital of Advance. How about that?
Yeah, you bet.
And we're talking a little bit about his experience. First year, getting ready to go back. This first year is basically taking 9 months when we're supposed to be in session for 4.5 plus a couple weeks in the summer. After we got done with the special summer session, we then went for a veto session and then added some other stuff on, correct?
Yes,
so
sir.
What else have we been doing up there in Jeff City?
Well, they tried to do a property tax deal, and it just it is not feasible for them to do away with personal property tax without a replacement. And the replacement that we would have had would have been the Hancock Amendment. And the Hancock Amendment would have eventually raised taxes on everybody's homes, everybody's real estate. Of course, there would have been no personal property tax on cars, boats, trailers, farm equipment, all that. But 27% of the money that comes in for our schools in Stoddard County is from personal property tax. So
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590 and talking to Steve Jordan, the representative from the 151st District. And Steve and I are kind of on the same page in a lot of this stuff. These creative fixes that are introduced by these individuals from the cities that's not going to be affected, like rural areas think, hey, this is the way to do it. let's get rid of this, let's get rid of this. And then when you start looking at it, that means ambulance services, school services, municipal services are all going to be reduced in our area, but everything's going to remain the same or get better, I guess, they think, in those areas. So how do you weigh those issues when you're up there? I mean, I just couldn't imagine the amount of pressure that they try to put on you to say, hey, come on, Steve, be a team player.
Absolutely. And I'm going to be a team player for my constituents, not the city, not the metropolitan areas. They didn't elect me. Folks here in Stoddard County, Southern Bullinger County, and Southwest Cape County elected me, and I was served for 22 years here, and I lost one election by one vote. So when I told them I was going to stand up for them, I'm absolutely going to do that. They can't put enough pressure on me to make me bend.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Steve Jordan from the 151st Legislative District, talking a lot about the committees he's on. Let's talk about one that's kind of caught my eye, government reduction.
Yeah, government efficiency. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Government efficiency. I can't even say that correctly. Government efficiency. What exactly does that entail?
Well, we're not very efficient at anything we do. We're not very good at fixing anything that we pass in legislation and we see what's wrong with it. We're not very good at going back and fixing that. And I'm a freshman, and I sat there a lot this year and listened, trying to figure out the procedures, who, what, when, where. And we get up there and we talk about how conservative we are. There's nothing conservative about what we're doing up there.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. And you talk about being conservative, and everybody says they're a fiscal conservative. Look at the budget that we passed this year. How in the world could you say that we're fiscal conservatives with the 350 million dollar?
Well, we were at 21 billion 5 years ago, 21.5 billion. We're at 52 something billion this year.
And again, I understand that the economy, if you look at it, we're going to fully fund this, we're going to fully fund that, we're going to fully fund everything. At what point do you don't have the money?
We had a pretty good reserve, but that reserve is leaving at somewhere in the tune of $1.2 million per day.
Oh, wait a minute, Steve. You're telling me our reserve is going down at about $1.2 million a day?
The last day I was in office, that was what it was doing.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, having a very good discussion with Steve Jordan, who's always been upfront and honest with anyone if you'll ever ask him. And Steve represents the 151st District. We're talking about his committee, government efficiency. If you do have some kind of a plan or something that goes through that committee, is there anyone up there who's wanting to listen to it?
Yes, there are a few, and I get in trouble all the time. You have leadership in the House and the Senate. You've got the governor. You've got the lobbyist. It is hard to get anything done that is good, in my opinion, as far as we're going to be cutting services or we're going to be raising taxes. And we've done away with the capital gains. They want to do away with the 4.7 or 5.7 income tax. How do you do that when you spend money like a bunch of drunken sailors?
Absolutely. And again, that's my question. We're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Steve Jordan from the 151st Legislative District. We're wanting to be fiscally conservative, but at some point, what service are we going to keep and what service are we going to get rid of?
I don't have an answer for that question.
And again, you'll start back in January, and I know that you've been traveling around your district. What are people telling you about what they think about what's going on in the current state of Missouri?
Most people don't want to know what's going on. That's the problem.
And it kind of expound on that. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that'll ask tough questions, and then some people will just be like, oh, don't worry about that. We'll just kick the can down the road. But at some point, we have to have leaders like Steve Jordan that's going to stand up and say, you know what? If we keep kicking this can down the road 20 years, my grandkids aren't going to have a can to kick down the road, correct?
Absolutely. And I'm not worried about me. I got more behind me than I got in front of me. But my kids and my grandkids, I'm worried. And it's a tough deal.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Steve Jordan, representative from the 151st Legislative District. He represents all of Stoddard County, parts of Bollinger County, and parts of Cape County. He's on the Transportation Committee, the Conservation Committee, and the Government Efficiency Committee. And you indicated when you were first called that they wanted to congratulate you and say, hey, welcome, you're one of us now. And the first thing they said was Speaker Patterson or Speaker-elect Patterson would greatly appreciate your vote, I'm assuming, or something like that. And you indicated that wasn't going to happen.
Well, they didn't ask me for his vote, but I just told them right up front because of his voting record.
Right.
Nothing personal.
Right.
Nice guy.
Right.
But I'm going to vote the way my constituents want, and I voted that way. Now, the other gentleman, I've got to know him a little bit. He's a nice fellow too, but it wouldn't have mattered who was running. I just couldn't vote for him because of the way he had voted in the past.
Absolutely. And, we've talked a lot. It's my understanding that Alex Riley is the floor leader from Springfield. And not trying to speak out of turn, but it's almost like there's a succession plan of you move from this to this to this to this, and it's my understanding that Mr. Riley's hopefully going to try to be the next floor or speaker. What kind of relationship do you have with Mr. Riley?
Alex is a nice fella. He's always given me his time when I wanted to know something. Has never high-hatted me. Has always, like I say, had time and open and willing to discuss anything. I think it'll be some different. But the rules need to be changed where the people have more power and not the leadership.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. And if you don't care, Steve, kind of expound on what Steve Jordan would do to make it more open and friendly for the citizens of Missouri to be part of the process.
You have the committees, and I don't know a whole lot about how this all works yet. You have chairmans. And then you have vice chairs. And the Speaker of the House controls what goes to committees and what gets put through committee. Even if it passes, it doesn't have to get brought to the floor. And you're circumventing the will of the people or the will of the person the people have elected to go up and represent them.
And so you're saying that if something is passed out of committee, it still may not get a vote on the floor, but it has to be decided by the speaker?
Basically, that's the way it is.
And I guess my question is, I guess there's so much interplay about what's going on up there that it's, I don't understand why you would want to send something to a committee, have it voted out of committee, and then not allow the entire legislative body to debate on that.
I don't have an explanation for you. There's a lot of underlying currents up there. I'll just leave it lay at that.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Steve Jordan, representative from the 151st Legislative District. And I apologize for saying the 150th. They've changed them. It used to be we were 163 down there, and then we were 162. And, and we were going back, we're talking about the special session. Actually, it was the veto session in which we talked about the two new things. One is initiative petition reform,
yes, sir,
and the other was the new districts for the congressional map.
Yes, sir.
Where are we at on both of those items?
Well, we passed the IP reform. Used to, you could go out and get 300,000 signatures in the state of Missouri, legal signatures, get it put on the ballot. You could either change the Constitution, or you could put forth a law. And with 50% plus one vote, you can change the Missouri Constitution or invoke a law. Now, that's not too much of a republic as far as I'm concerned. That's a democracy, and we're not ruled by democracy in the United States. Now they can still do the same thing, get those 300,000 signatures, pass it by 50% plus one vote, but it also have to pass every congressional district now in order to change the Constitution or invoke that law.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590 and talking to Steve Jordan, the representative from the 151st Legislative District. And, Steve, I always thought the Constitution should be a document that's a little bit more difficult to pass or change than just 50% plus one. I think it take 2/3 of the state to ratify a new law or a constitutional bill in the federal level, and I should remember my PBS days, but I don't remember that exactly. I can understand how that would be problematic because every year it seems like we're putting on some new thing to change the Constitution. So it's my understanding now they can still get the 300 signatures it has to pass, but it has to pass each congressional district as well.
Yes, I think it's got to pass. It's got to be voted on yet.
Right.
But that is used to Kansas City and St. Louis had enough numbers, especially in an off year, they could pass anything they wanted to. Then you get the dark money coming in from out of state, maybe out of the country, hiring people to come and get the signatures, and the bill never reads what the law means, the ballot language. It's not plain, it's not simple. It should be something that every layman can understand, and that's not the way bills are wrote.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Steve Jordan, a representative from the 151st District. And that leads me to, they call it the ballot candy. My philosophy is like your philosophy. It should say, shall the citizens of Missouri allow the Constitution to be changed by 50% vote plus one? And then put a question mark. But that's not how written. Those double shall we not, and it's a paragraph. And how are you supposed to understand what you're voting for?
Well, you can't understand unless you take the time to read the whole ballot language and have a lawyer sitting there with you to explain it. I mean, the majority of us anyway, me for one.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, having a very good conversation with Steve Jordan from the 151st Legislative District. And, Steve, I think that's one of the reasons why you wanted to go to Jeff City. Like you said, successful businessman, represented the area for numerous years, lost one election by one vote. We'll leave it at that, if it was an actual loss, but that's beside the point. You know how to make business work, and when it's so complicated that you're like struggling to try to figure it out, that's not the way that the forefathers wanted us to do it, was it?
No, absolutely not. We ran 44 trucks, had 118 drivers under my supervision, the shop, the dispatchers. Things are simple if you're trying to do the right thing. And I've left every place I've ever been better than what it was when I got there, but I don't think I can do that in Jeff City. I'm sorry. And I promised I'd stay for 6 years, and I will. But I'm telling you, folks, I need more help up there. I need more people like me, and there's 10 of us that are rowing the same direction. We've got a meeting Tuesday to see what we can try to get together, and hopefully in 2 more years there'll be 10 or 15 or 20 more of us that are willing to stand up and fight the battle. And
again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590 with Steve Jordan, representative from the 151st. It's like when I look at the Senate, there's 35 senators with the ability of one person to stop everything in the state of Missouri if they're don't like one thing that's happened. Not necessarily in that bill, in a different bill or a different, or I didn't get this appointment, or I didn't get this. I'm going to just blow it all up. Is that really the way that we think it should be working in Jeff City?
Well, that's some of the undercurrents that I was talking about, alluding to a while ago. It's sometimes I think we're not even in junior high. I think we're in kindergarten.
Absolutely. And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. talking to Steve Jordan, representative of the 151st District. He covers all of Stoddard County, parts of Bollinger County, and parts of Cape County. He's on the Transportation Committee, the Conservation Committee, and the Government Efficiency Committee. We've talked a lot about Steve. And Steve, one thing is, you indicated that if anybody has any questions, just reach out and ask.
Absolutely.
How will they get a hold of you, Steve? If they
I'll put my cell number out there. I don't care. 573-225-0628.
And again, Steve will not hold any punches. If that's not the way he thinks, he will tell you. I can speak from personal experience. Steve and I have not always agreed on everything, but one thing I can say is Steve Jordan is honest and to the point, and does what he thinks best for the citizens of this area, and that's all you can ask for. Steve, let me ask you this, and it's kind of off the record. It's kind of weird. Well, not really off the record, but it's a unique question. Do you think that term limits has been a good thing or a bad thing for the state of Missouri?
I think term limits have robbed the citizens of some knowledge, because when you go up there the first 4.5 months, probably the first 9 months plus your extra time, you're just really figuring out how the system works and how to maybe get along. If it's just institutional knowledge is lost. Now, again, I was 68 when I went. I'm not up there to climb the political ladder. I'm up there to serve my constituents, and a lot of guys kind of get caught up in that program, and they want to be the next chairman or the next speaker, and none of that interests me.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Steve Jordan, the representative from the 151st Legislative District. And Steve, talking about term limits, it's, as you said, the first session, you're just trying to figure out where's my parking spot, who's my legislative assistant going to be, where's my office going to be, how am I getting from here to there, and then you have all these people who want to become your friend, these lobbyists, these, hey, I'm the executive director of so-and-so. I want to help you. If you need any questions about any of these bills, call me. I'll tell you what you need to know about those bills. Is that kind of some of the things? And when we don't have the 20, 25-year legislator, we have the younger people. You're looking for someone to kind of help you, but that's kind of the scenario we have, correct?
Yes. Yep. SB 4 bill.
Yes.
The lobbyists come to my office the night before the vote, want to know if I could support this. They didn't think they had the votes to get it done.
Right.
And it shouldn't have been done.
Sure.
I said, you guys have got a $49 billion book of business. You're guaranteed 9.5%, 10% profit. You got a monopoly. Nobody's going to come in on you, and you're wanting to raise rates 2 years before you start building these natural gas power plants. I said, I'm out. I would have loved to have had that kind of operation when I was running a trucking company, raise my rates 2 years before I had to buy new equipment. I said, are you going to give the depreciation back to your customers after you get the plants built? And I said, are you going to raise the fees on your residential customers? Oh, well, that's not the plan. I said, have you got that in writing? And they kind of looked at me like a deer in the headlight. Well, the next morning before the vote, they sent some people in from Ameren, and I asked the same question, and the answer was no, we're not going to give the depreciation. I said, well, your profit margin is going to go from 9.5 to 10 to 14.5 to 18, depending on how long you depreciate the plants out. I said, no, I'm out. And I don't want to have to import power into the state of Missouri, but we're going to put people out of their homes because of utility bills and because of property tax bills if we're not careful. And I don't want that. Somebody that's worked their whole life to pay for their home, and then they can't stay in it if they're drawing $1,100 or $1,200 Social Security, and their 1 month of their Social Security takes to pay their property tax. I got a problem.
Absolutely. And we're getting on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Steve Jordan, the representative from the 151st District. And Steve, we talked a lot about the way the bills are given to you guys. You have these caucus meetings, you go up there, they say, hey, we've decided as a caucus this is how we're going to be. And I'm like, did they take a vote of everybody in the caucus, or am I thinking something totally off the wall?
No, they will try to get opinions. They don't want any arguments on the floor. and again, I stay in trouble all the time because I speak it the way I see it. They will say, we don't want any arguments on the floor. Let's get it worked out here in caucus. And I've not got up on the floor and spoke a lot this year. I'm just trying to figure out what, who, what, when, where, why is my biggest word. And it's pretty well, it'll be brought up, the bill will be brought up, it'll be brought up for vote, and it's just the way it is.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Steve Jordan, the representative from the 151st Legislative District. Steve, tell me a little bit more about the barrel racing. Do you have somebody right now that you're like, hey, this person is somebody I really like to watch, or something of that nature, or are you just more into the beauty of the animal itself?
Well, pretty is as pretty does is what my dad always said on a horse.
Right.
Marnie Loosenard at Hazel, Kentucky.
And again, we're taking a moment here.
Had stage 4 cervical cancer.
Right.
Always in the top 10 on the futurity riders.
Sure.
Her husband was Amanda's rodeo coach.
Right.
And she went through about 4.5 months of treatment at MD Anderson.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Steve Jordan. Steve's been gracious enough to give us some time here today, talking about what's going on in Jefferson City. We're talking a little about some of the special people that he's talked to while he's been a part of barrel racing, and the great people that you've met. Is that correct?
Yeah, Marnie Loosenart and Bob Loosenart have had hundreds of thousands of people praying for her, and she has come back like a barn on fire and is winning everywhere, every weekend.
Absolutely.
Power of God. Absolutely.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Steve Jordan. Steve, one thing that I've noticed too, right now, the Republican Party has a pretty much a lock on the House of Representatives, the state Senate, and the executive branch. Why is it that we can't get more conservative things pushed through that the people of Missouri need? And I know that's a tough question to ask you and to put you on the spot, but I just don't understand when we have, 111 state representatives plus whatever the we're at, plus 25 senators or how many of us, and a Republican governor. Why are we not getting things accomplished for the people?
I'm going to tell you, I think that the COVID money that was sent down to the state of Missouri, when you have money and you have power, things don't work real well. I think you build government in things that you shouldn't have built. That's the reason why our budgets went from $21.5 billion to $52 billion. That money should have never been built into the government coffers per se.
So what are we going to do when the COVID money is all gone and it doesn't anymore? And now we're at $52 billion and we're at $21 billion. Where are we going to get that extra $30 billion?
Well, that's what I was talking about a while ago. 1.2 or 1.3 million.
Right.
Leaving our reserve every day. When I left, when the session was over, I don't know where that's at right now. I was supposed to have been emailed that every day, which I'm not getting it. So I don't know where we're at, but we're not conservative.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. With Steve Jordan, representative from the 151st Legislative District, represents all of Stoddard County, parts of Bollinger County, and parts of Cape County. He's on the Transportation Committee, the Conservation Committee, and Government Efficiency Committee. And we're having a very thorough and frank discussion about Jefferson City. Steve, a lot of people tell me the best thing you can do if you go to Jeff City, for every bill you pass, you should repeal about 2.
Yeah, or 4.
Absolutely. Because it almost seems like we keep passing this new legislation, but there's other legislations that we just ignore to even look at. Why? I don't know. And again, I guess I'm preaching to the choir, yes, because sir. I think you and I are on the same page, and I just don't understand what's the disconnect whenever people are elected and then they go up to Jeff City, and it's almost like, I'm going to run as a solid conservative, fiscal conservative. We're going to do this. And then they get up there and it's the same old, same old.
It is a very disheartening program when you say what you're going to do, and then about 6 months into the program or less, you forget about why you came. And that's by design. And I talked too much, but when I got up there, they said, this is going to be the greatest feeling that you've ever had. You're up here and you're part of the team, and they just try to envelope you into the same thinking that they have got.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Steve Jordan, representative from the 151st State Legislative District. Steve served the county a long time as a county commissioner. Before you were county commissioner, did you do other things?
I was Pike Township road member for 16 years.
And tell the people a little bit about the township form of government.
Township form of government, we have 3 road board members that are elected every 2 years. And those people are in charge of keeping the crew, keeping the equipment up, keeping the roads, the drainage ditches, the culverts open. It's a pretty big undertaking for not much money for what we got paid.
And a lot of people don't understand. They think all the roads in Stoddard County, if it's not state maintained, it's maintained by the county, but that's not correct at all, is it?
No, county commissioners don't have any say over the road districts. They distribute the CART fund money, and now then this year they have come up with some extra money that they're giving to the townships for gravel, and we have some townships that don't have a town in them at all, and they barely are able to even make a scratch on the roads and the drainage and everything that they've got to take care of. It's a tough position to be in, I promise you that.
And again, I think that's one of the things, and again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. That's made Steve Jordan appreciate and being an outstanding state legislature member. When you're on that township board and you're doing the best you can to create, because you have miles and miles and miles of road and drainage and not much money, you have to figure out a way to make this work.
Absolutely.
And because you're at the local level, and believe me, everybody you gave your cell phone to number on the radio earlier, everybody has that number, and they call, Steve, I can't drive down my road. This drainage is horrible. I need you to fix it. And it's not just one person calling you. It's hundreds possibly, but depending on what's going on. So that's kind of where you cut your teeth, correct?
Yes, that is correct. My dad served on there before I went on.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. Winding down here with Steve Jordan. He's been gracious enough to give us some time. Steve is finishing up his first year in the Missouri House. Goes back in January. Is it my understanding that we should be done with all sessions for 2025 at this point, or is there talk about going back for anything else?
I have not heard any talk. I don't think he would call another special session this late in the year. I wouldn't think.
And you've been traveling around, and Steve, I'm going to give you the opportunity. Is there any events or anything that the people of the area needs to know? If they have any questions for you, just give you a call, get a hold of you, and you'll be happy to meet with them.
Yeah, just give me a holler. I'll be glad to talk to anybody about anything.
And let's talk a little bit more about the family. Other than Steve Jordan, there's got to be some other people behind the scenes that are really helping you and encouraging to say, Steve, I know you don't want to go back after this weekend, but we really appreciate everything you're doing for us.
I have been really blessed by people telling me they appreciated me standing up, even though it didn't get along very well up there, and I don't have any legislation with my name wrote on it, and that may be a good thing. I think there was 1,100 and some bills that were put up, and why in the world do we need 1,100 more laws?
And again, my opinion has been, and I try not to mention things, but why would we need a $19 million park in McDonald County, or where there's I think there's 15,000 people in the entire county, And again, we're conservatives, we're fine, but as you indicated, when we have money or the government has money, it's like they just lose their heads.
We tried to get Keith Elliott's a good friend of mine. He's a rep over from Doniphan. I don't remember what district it is. Can't remember that. He tried to get money appropriated for an X-RAD deal like they've got in Paducah because of the storms over there. There's a big gap between Springfield and Paducah, and there wasn't money available for that, but we could spend $19 million on a park.
And, again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Steve Jordan, representative from the 151st District. My philosophy has always been infrastructure. Let's repair all of our roads. Let's repair all of our bridges if there's some rail issues or things of that nature. One of the main things is health care in the area. Dexter is lucky enough to still have a hospital, but look at the number of hospitals that are closing in this area. Eventually, the closest hospital will either be in Cape Girardeau, I'm assuming, or Jonesboro, something of that nature. So I don't understand the forward-thinking view of why we're not focusing on infrastructure. But again, I know that you're up there fighting that for us, and I'm also, again, preaching to the choir.
We have hospitals that have not been paid. We have TRICARE facilities that have not been paid since last August. I'm talking about a year ago in August. We are worried about putting on a show in some cases instead of taking care of the businesses in front of us. And again, I don't get along very well because I point that out. I'll shine the light.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590 with Steve Jordan, representative for the 151st District. And those of you who have never been to Jefferson City, please go up during the session. Steve would love to see you come by. He'll give you a tour. There is some pretty neat stuff there. The Missouri Hall of Fame. You can see the Thomas Hart Benton paintings. You can see some things of that nature. And then just go up there and just sit in for a day. And obviously, you can also follow online. This is all broadcast online. You can watch the House in session. Sit in for a committee meeting. Those will always done after the session. It's not during the session. While they're on the floor, they don't have committee meetings. Correct. It's always after hours. So, Steve, it's not like you're working from 8 to 5. You could be working from 8 till midnight some nights. Is that correct?
That is correct. I spent, I think 11:30 was the latest night I had, but there was several 10 o'clock night meetings, and it's pretty taxing on you at times, and it's hard not to get discouraged. I'd been there about 2 months, and I thought, am I smart enough to be here? And then about 4 months later, I looked at a couple of them other guys. How in the world did they get elected? And I'm not trying to be
right.
Just you observe and you learn, and it's just it's a mess.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Steve Jordan, getting ready to start his second year of his first session of many that he'll be there. I hope at least the full 8. We'll see where he's at. He's promised a 6, but we hope an 8 for the 151st District. He represents Stoddard, Cape, and Bollinger counties, parts of Cape and Bollinger, all of Stoddard. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And Steve, what are some of the things that you think are on the horizon? We got about 2 or 3 minutes. What are some of the things on the horizon that we're going to be talking about next year?
Well, I have a contaminated meat bill on the up for show again, and that's all it got was show last year.
Right.
Where you take 2 stem cells out of a cow or a chicken or a hog, and you start that meat in a petri dish, and then they move it over to a vat, and they're wanting to grow this meat and sell it to us in a steak or a sausage or a chicken nugget or whatever. And I copied Florida's bill, talked to that guy down there. It's already withstood a challenge, and a federal judge upheld it, and that did not get the light of day this year.
So they're wanting to create meat?
They are creating meat.
And they're trying to sell it to the public?
Yes, sir.
Oh, Steve. Again, I appreciate you for standing up for that. And a couple things that I think you've also been a big help with is, there's the individuals wanting to take water out of Missouri.
Yes.
You're also very opposed to that, correct?
Yes.
Kind of explain to the people a little bit about that.
We have the best water rights in the country. We have riparian water rights. And I'm all for not shipping water out of the district. Well, some people in southeast Missouri and other people, they come up with the water exportation bill. And I read it. At first I was for it, and then I read it again, and I told all the bill makers, I said, if you want to truly stop water exportation out of the state of Missouri, we already have 3 pipelines. Come to find out, we've got 5. Let me put an amendment on that bill that will stop any improvement to existing pipelines that would allow any more volume to come out of Missouri, and no additional pipelines to allow any more volume to come out of the state of Missouri. And they wouldn't let me put that amendment on there, so I voted against it.
And again, we're here with, I'll welcome the booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, winding down with Steve Jordan. Steve's talking about 2 important things and some of the reasons. And that's one thing about Steve Jordan, who's the 151st State Legislative District representative. If you have a question on why he's voted on any of these bills, it's well reasoned, it's well rationed out. He'll be happy to talk to you. He's giving the cell phone number out. Call his office, 573-751-1494. Leave him a email, steve.jordan@house.mo.gov. And I've been remiss, and we're going to wind down. Who's your legislative assistant up in Jeff City?
Melinda Fairfax, 6 years experience, and she has kept me out of trouble.
Well, and you've always got to give a shout out to those important people like that. And Steve, as we're winding down, is there anybody that you want to thank here locally, a wife, family members that have really done something for you that you don't usually get the opportunity to thank them, but they're really behind the scenes making this work?
Well, my wife really didn't want me to run for this. She said, you're going to do this without me, but she kind of got on board and softened up to the deal and has helped me. She goes to the health deal every morning out with the pool at San Francis, and my kids have all been behind me 100%. And if you look at my Facebook page, I probably haven't had 15 negative comments since I've been up there, and I think that speaks volumes.
Absolutely. And again, on behalf of our producer, Maureen Johnson, our executive producer, Evan Todd, I would like to thank Steve Jordan, representative from the 151st District, for spending an hour of his day with us. And for everyone listening, I hope you have an excellent afternoon and a better tomorrow.